Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Ram on the Rocks. This is our little bar in the middle of the random access memory of your local Sega Dreamcast. Today, with me, I have my good friend Nick.
Spiders.
Spiders?
Crawling everywhere.
Okay.
It's the spooky season, Wayne.
It's November.
Oh.
It's
a little late. It's all right. Hey guys.
I think it's a little late. I should probably clear this up. So I'm not doing a good job convincing anybody yet, but Nick is not a regular member of this podcast. He is a guest.
He says for now.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see how things go. But I was in a little bit of a bind to get something out, and Nick very graciously agreed to last minute just kind of get something put together here. So
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And I should introduce myself as well. I'm Wayne. I'm Wayne from Wayneisboss. And today I thought it would be fun to talk about something that you and I both have a lot of love and affinity for, something that we have both covered a couple of times on our channel. Mm-hmm. And that would be Klonoa.
Indeed. The little cabot who wins over everyone's hearts who's actually played the game.
Adorable little man. I love him to death. I guess the most interesting place to start with that, I guess history on your channel. What have you covered with Klonoa yourself before?
Well, you know how it goes for me specifically. And I'm trying to sound less and less complaining about it because I do very much appreciate Sonic the Hedgehog and the life given to me because of the Blue Rat. I have covered. One of my videos was every version of Klonoa 1, and the other video was just the many comic books of Klonoa, which were a surprising amount of those things. I wanted to talk about the emotional core of the ending of the first game and how it really connects with the second game, and just cover the second game in general. I've not yet done that, and I do still occasionally get the random comment asking where that is, so I'm very thankful for those folks there. But yeah, so far all I have right now publicly are those two videos, but I deeply love Klonoa. It's the reason I got a PlayStation. Oh yeah. Love that little guy.
I wish I could say that I had like a super rich history with the franchise myself. In truth, I think like my first introduction was, I swear, being at like a pharmacy, like a CVS or a Walgreens with my mom one night and seeing, I think it was like one of the Game Boy Advance games. I saw him on a box and I was just like, he looks cool. And I kind of saw him in and out for a while after that. Sometime or another, I stumbled across like a video or something that was kind of going over Door to Phantomile, and I got enraptured, and I think that was one of the first times I tried like booting up alternative means to play PlayStation 1 games. And finally got a chance to play through that. Later on, my roommate, actually, we work for the same company, she traded in her copy of Door to Phantomile, and it's specifically at my store because she knew I would buy it, and then I did, and I still have it. Since then, I have covered every North American released Klonoa game on my channel and just kind of reviewed them. I feel like I would do those videos a little bit differently now, but isn't that kind of the trap with this line of work?
Yeah, occasionally. I don't know. I don't know if I feel the same way about a lot of my stuff, if I'm honest. Every time I kind of revisit old stuff, I have noticed like, oh, good point, Nick. Because I got them thinking in my head like, oh, I should have said this, and then I say it next in the video. I'm like, oh, good job, buddy. Good job.
I can tell you, like, if I had the chance, if I had all the time in the world, I would redo every Spider-Man video that I have ever made, because I hate most of them. I think I especially hate the Spider-Man PS4 video, which is funny because that was the one that first started getting traffic into my channel, like a lot of it. I do not like that video at all.
I mean, it'd get numbers. It's Spider-Man.
It did. Oh yeah, especially like for where it was at the time. Like it was kind of unbelievable how well that video did. So
people love Spider-Man video games, dude. They just fucking love them.
They really.
Sorry for the language. I'm trying to do better.
You're fine. You're fine.
Sick. I'm sick. It's the illness.
It's okay. I've got a little disclaimer.
It drives me to sinning.
I've got a little disclaimer saying that there'd be some adult language. It's not that big of a deal. I actually do have I've got a copy of, what was it, Klonoa Beach Volleyball, and now thanks to my friend Josh, I have the means to actually boot up European games on my American PS1, and I've been meaning to review that one for a long time, and I had it in the runnings for like an April Fool's Day video a long time ago, but for one reason or another, it just didn't happen.
If you keep going down the... if you stay in the territory that you are in terms of, I mean, do people know what you're working on right now?
Oh yeah. Oh, I've been keeping everybody updated. I want everybody to know that like Digimon World 3 is happening. It's coming. It's a little surreal, kind of reaching the end of the PS1 era, at least for the American games. I'm planning on going back to the Japan exclusive ones at some point, but I kind of think that the smarter thing to do for the time being is to kind of tackle the stuff people know the most, and that'd be at least probably within the circles of my audience, and that'd probably be the stuff released in America.
That's fair. That's cool. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously I'd say, stay on that Digimon gravy train, but you could also hop around to like other games in that were released around that time, and you never know, Klonoa Beach Volleyball might grab a bit of attention as well. It is a weird fun time, but
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely plan on sticking around and putting a lot of emphasis on just that era of games. I mean, yeah. Dreamcast stuff is a must. Like, it's gonna happen. Yeah. That Skies of Arcadia video, I think, is probably one of my most anticipated projects for me personally. If nobody else watches it, that's fine. I get one. I'm doing Digimon World 3 for everybody else. I'm paying my dues. I get to do the Skies of Arcadia. That's the rules.
That's fair. More than fair. But we're not talking about any of those games today.
No, we're not. Have you, I am curious though, have you played Klonoa Beach Volleyball?
Oh yeah, no, I have it. I've played a bit of it. It's not bad. It's a volleyball game.
It's really not. It's surprisingly a good time. It's also like, I forget sometimes that the Wii game happened, but I was gonna say it's like the only time you just hear the characters speaking plain English, but that's not true.
Nope, unfortunately.
I would say it's
you know what? His British voice is kind of charming.
I was gonna say it's got a different charm to it in
I mean, just volleyball. Like his little hat on his head, he just looks like one of those little chimney sweeps. The little boy governor. Little rascal.
I get a version of him voiced by Dick Van Dyke.
Get a voice by Stevie.
By Stevie? Oh, Stevie would do a great Klonoa voice.
Oh, she would. She would. Too bad she's dead.
Oh no. How did this happen?
I don't know. She's probably asleep by now. It's like super late over there.
Oh, that is true. That is true. I do have to get Stevie back on along with you. I kind of want to do another like horror game chat at some point. I promise we'll get back to Klonoa in a second. Just last night, because we were gonna record this, but then like stuff came up and but it was okay because like a friend had just recommended to me an indie game called Mouthwashing, and I was
she actually recommended that to me.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, I kind of figured it would be right up her alley. I went ahead and downloaded it last night because I was like, well, hell, I got the time, I played through it. It's like 2.5 hours long. It was good.
I'm gonna go buy it and play it. So yeah, let's all have a conversation. I'll have a few more under my belt. I'm grabbing a few more of those smaller games since we last spoke about that.
Yeah.
I'm only halfway through Squirrel Stapler. but I'm going to finish it. I got a couple of weird little bundles of games because I was just inspired to play some stuff since we last spoke. So we'll have more to talk about with the horror wrap up, and actually getting as a Christmas gift from Cecil, sending me over Silent Hill 2 HD. So I will have a lot to talk about.
Okay. I was gonna ask. Speaking of okay, actually, I don't have a good segue for this. So, Klonoa games that I have not played. I have played all the North American ones, and then I've played beach volleyball. Sadly, I've not had the chance to dip my toes into the realm of the Japan releases, which I think most of the exclusives were handhelds.
The only ones I can think of off the top of my head, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the RPG and the Wonder Swan game.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. There might be some part of my brain that's like making up another one. I could have sworn that there was another one for the GBA that was exclusive, but I could be wrong.
I think it's just the two platformers and the RPG.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's it.
The RPG has me interested too, partially because Klonoa, I guess for anybody uninitiated, is what we would define as a puzzle platformer.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, you're jumping around platforms, you're moving from point A to B, but there's always an obstacle that you actually have to put a little thought into. And Klonoa's moveset, which is grabbing enemies and inflating them, and then like using them as a tool to progress past certain like obstacles and such. Like, it is an array of small puzzles, and especially if you're going for like 100% with all the dream stones and everything, like, it gets your brain working a little bit. I'd say more so in Lunatea than in Door to Phantomile, but that's always there.
Yeah. The RPG is weird to me. Yeah, like, it's weird because, like, if you think about Klonoa, like, I think like the first thing anybody thinks about is the impact of the story, even though there's not any real consistency there. So when I heard about the RPG, it made sense, but it didn't at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of my take on it, is that, like, there is a precedent for, like, heavy emphasis on narrative with Klonoa.
Yeah, but also, just the idea of him, Should we say full spoilers for Klonoa?
I'm glad you recommended that, because I was about to just, like, blow off the lid. Yes, full spoilers. We'll just say for Klonoa as a franchise.
Because the rest of the franchise does not work unless you get the plot twist of the first game, which is he's a dream traveler. And that, I mean, like, we probably will spend a bunch of time talking about the ending there. But, I mean, I feel like we're going to have a part 2 Klonoa conversation, because, like, the RPG game was something I desperately wanted to play when it first was announced. And then it came out, and it was Japanese only forever, so I just kind of became accustomed to not having it. The English patch exists now. Like, there's an English version. I have it downloaded and sitting on my computer, and I just have not touched it, which is embarrassing. But, like, I don't know, I don't have the time for anything anymore, so that's part of the reason.
Yeah.
But, like most of our conversations, Wayne, I'll probably feel a great itch to finally try it after we're done talking tonight.
Yeah, I've been eyeballing for a while the Wonder Swan game, Moonlight Museum, I believe is the name, which I always thought was cute because that name made a return in Lunatea's Veil.
I just like the name. It's a good name. They just know it's a good name.
Oh, yeah. I do finally have a Wonder Swan. I do got to spruce it up a little. The polarizing film over the screen on the inside has faded, but otherwise the system is functional. Not too hard of a fix, thanks to a codename Gamma. For sending me in the right direction of an eBay listing that had a quote-unquote busted Wonder Swan. Not only is it a Wonder Swan, it is, and not only is it clear orange, which goes great with my collection, it is the first Digimon edition Wonder Swan.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dude, I got so lucky with the green ones I got. I got so, because one of them's like a Gundam version, and I was like, I could give a damn. Care. I could care less. But I got it when it was still cheap, and apparently it's harder to find now. I don't know how true that is anymore, but I mean, like, let's have a conversation sometime about collecting for our specific colors for game machines.
That
I want to know what kind of challenges you've had. Because I've had some interesting ones.
That'd be a ton of fun, especially since like I'm cheating a bit with some of mine because I'm doing like custom shell swaps and stuff on some of the
I don't think that's cheating. Like, okay, we're just have to say it now. So like, I try my very best to get every system in my color if it exists. Painting doesn't count for me. Mm-hmm. I have some painted ones that I just use for work and stuff like that. But for the rest of the time, I have like, these are the official releases, and then the next step is, well, if it's not official, I want the shell. Like, I need that color baked in. I'm that weirdly obsessed with it, and that's just how I am. And I've gotten so bad, like I now have 2 different green official consoles that are one of a kind. So if there was any other lunatic trying to collect every other green game console out there, they will never have a complete collection because of my screwy ass. So
I do want to get into that further, but I do agree. I feel like that'd be a great like discussion of
that's not just a discussion in itself. Yeah. Let's just you know what? People probably are frustrated with us being all over the place. Klonoa 1. Let's just start there. I want to know when the first time was you got your hands on it, when you heard of it, your first impressions. Give me the deets.
It was during, it was seeing that YouTube video, and it was like kind of stumbling across. I was just like, hey, this is that little guy that I saw that a long time ago. Like, he stuck somewhere into my brain, and I remember just seeing him around. And I always wanted to know more, but there just wasn't a lot to see. I mean, it didn't help that Bandai Namco owns the property, which means it is not getting marketed or supported. And that the truth, Digimon fans. But seeing that, sadly, the entire video spoiled the whole game for me. I wish I had gotten to play the game without knowing the ending. And I sadly did not get that experience.
Yeah, not everyone does, but it still hits.
It hits hard, and honestly, I feel like the midway part of the game, it's really hard too.
Nobody talks enough about that. Like, anytime I see anybody talk about Klonoa, it is just about the ending. I don't. There weren't a lot of videos before ours covering Klonoa. I think Caddy did one.
Yeah. Well, Caddy also like kept a lot of the details kind of under wraps. Like, he didn't get too hard into like the, I don't want to say the darker side, but like the more emotionally driven aspect of it.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of other one guys. Like, oh right, one I keep thinking about is like Chase Face when he did his video.
I did. That was the one.
It was a painful watch for me.
It's
because here's a game I play when I'm sad. Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
It does. I feel like it paints a poor picture of what the game's actually like, because it is a joyful experience even in its darker corners.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, like the ending is so powerful, it recontextualizes the rest of the journey. And, like, it's one of those endings that, yeah, you can understand why when somebody talks about the game, that's the only thing they talk about. Like, we started our conversation about the first game talking about the ending, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But it only hits as hard as it does because the rest of the journey is as charming as it is, and it still gradually mixes in like some deeper, more intense, more powerful emotions that the little guy has to go through. And part of that is that midway point where, spoilers again, his grandfather dies.
And it's so interesting too. It starts off like just about any other little platformer would. It's like you've got this little guy just living his life in his little town. we've got this princess from some far-off kingdom is in trouble. We gotta go help her out. And she gets kidnapped by an evil force, and you do your best to go chase him down. And you deal with his stupid henchman from time to time, and who's constantly fumbling over himself. And there's a moment in the game where said henchman is just like, oh, hey, like this MacGuffin that we need is with your grandpa. I'm gonna go pay him a visit. If it's your first time playing, you're not really taking that as a serious threat until you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's a great way to put it. I mean, like, do you remember the music when Joka first shows up? Like saying, "Oh, cool. I'm off to go find that pendant."
It is.
It gets very sinister very quickly.
It does.
Like the music completely shifts, starting with the Wind Ruins.
It's interesting because, like, it's like the game trying to tell you, that things are about to take a turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even like the music in the stage after, trying to make your way to Grandpa, trying to get to him first, is frantic. It's got like a bit of tension to it. It's this it's kind of ramping up for you. That is just like, hey, you're kind of on the clock here. And but at the same time, it's just like some part of your brain is just like, you've seen Joka do nothing but make a fool out of himself. Like, obviously you got to go get to Grandpa, but like, how much of a threat is he really?
Yeah. Because, like, I mean, yeah, you just kind of expect things to go okay. But that's not even true, though. Now I'm saying it out loud. It's 50-50 up in the air, like, hey, things could turn out for Grandpa just fine. But, like, I've seen enough Disney movies where I wasn't too surprised when he got snuffed out. I wasn't expecting it to then hit you in the gut again at the end there.
I think another...
I think that's crazy that death is not the saddest thing in that game.
Yeah. I think a part of it for me too is just like, you expect those things. Actually, the Disney comparison is apt, and that's something that definitely, like, I was thinking of the first time that I saw it. But in my head, I'm thinking of examples, even in other things. Like, think Star Wars. Luke Skywalker's like aunt and uncle get barbecued towards the beginning of the movie. You expect that sort of thing in the beginning as an inciting action, or a sacrifice towards the end, ramping up the climax. It's not often you see something like that happen in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I think,
we still haven't even talked about the game itself.
We're
you better, if you're listening to this, you better have played the game. I'm sorry, but like, I think that needs to be said. I don't think everything needs a synopsis, right? Like, I do think sometimes if two people are already jumping in and jumping all over the place with a topic, passionately talking about it, I think that should be reason enough a lot of the time to say, hey, go play this game. Because there's no way anybody listening to this who knows you, who's tuning into your voice, doesn't already know about Klonoa.
Yeah.
That's my assumption anyway. You've heard about it somewhere at this point. It used to be a cult classic. It used to be really obscure. Not in the world of YouTubers. Not in the world of gaming YouTube. It's well known at this point. It's to the point now you're probably going to get people saying it's overrated.
Oh, well. Wow.
Yeah.
I will say one point of conflict, and I'm not sure if this is something that's worth getting into now or maybe a little bit later. Point of conflict for me still, because I really like the Fantasy Reverie series.
Uh-huh.
For Lunatea's Veil. My recommendation for Door to Phantomile is still, I still recommend it, and I still think that it's a fine way to play Door to Phantomile, and I think it's still a good way to play Door to Phantomile, and from what I have seen, you're not missing out on much if that's your only context of the game. I will still always recommend the PS1 version over it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and it could be, no, I was about to say it could be nostalgia. It's not. Because I know what I'm doing.
Well, I also didn't play this game for the first time until I was like in college. Like, it's not just nostalgia. It's
yeah. No, but you talked about it in your video. Like I shouted you out in my video because I was proud of you for noticing these things that I thought I was being a bit too nitpicky about. Because I've played. I mean, like I played. I was working at GameStop when Klonoa Week came out. Like I lost my mind when I saw it in the. It was in a montage. That's how it was announced. It was in a montage of games that were coming up when the Wii would come out. So I pre-ordered it. It was the only copy in the store. Bought it. I have the pre-order pin still that came with it. And something was lost when I played through that version. And it was clear as day that the CG cutscenes really had attention to detail at the front of their minds when they were making the PS1 version. And they did some really beautiful things in those moments that were not caught in the re-release. And then that one re-recording in the latest version, which is crazy.
I am glad that I don't feel so crazy for noticing that like strongly.
Yeah.
Like, why not use the original record? Now, to be fair, are we thinking about the same moment here? That's the one. If like the original recording is so good, but the clarity is so much higher within that recording, but also it just doesn't feel like it hits the same. When Klonoa's grandfather dies, it's not instant. It is a moment wrapped up in tension and anxiety. You see the hut get destroyed. You make it there, and you think for a second you made it there in time before Joka shows up, blows the place up, takes off with the pendant, and sicks this giant monster after you, which, oh my god, the music that plays during that boss fight is so good. And I think it plays up like the emotions that Klonoa are feeling in that moment so incredibly well. Like, this is his rise to action. This is like him getting snapped out of his world and his reality, and suddenly like things are so much more dire than he would have expected them to be.
Yeah.
And then the quietness as you sit with your grandfather and he tells you what's left to do before just dying. And the gut punch that you get from this little rabbit just screeching in pain. Like, and there's I think another part of it for me is like there's a much heavier reverb to it. You get a greater sense of like scale. Yeah. It's I don't know. Without context, this probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But in the Fantasy Reverie series, which is the most current release of Klonoa 1 and 2, they reuse the Phantomilian language, which is the made-up language for the game. They use the audio recordings from the PS1 version, except during gameplay, and except for that one screech. Maybe they thought it was too intense for the kids, to which I say, don't be cowards.
I thought she was a little bit more hoarse in her re-recording, like a little bit more violent in it. I thought it was a little bit too intense in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like the audio was, I mean, the audio difference was off to the point where it was distracting. And yeah, I don't know. I think they were trying to make it more intense. I don't know what the point is. I would love to be a fly on the wall there I would love to know what the thinking was behind that moment. It's very confusing.
Yeah. I also.
There's a couple things too. I want to when we're off this particular subject, there are a couple other things I've noticed too. I want to.
Oh, for sure. One thing that gets me is just like because of like how strong that moment is, and that is the whiplash. Like it is this happy, cheery 2.5D little platformer. Everything you encounter is adorable, and it has moments where it's kind of tapping on the screen and telling you, hey, there's something a little bit heavier going on here. I got that sense when fighting the second boss with the king in Jugpot Falls that gets possessed. Like there's a sort of intensity to the music there where it's just like, oh, there's a bit of depth here, but like it still doesn't prepare the uninitiated player for just how heavy that scene is going to be and just how much it's going to hurt Klonoa.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a bit mixed on that because I guess I'm just used to how Disney does it at that point where I was like, okay, yeah, I could see them like hitting there emotionally and, good on them for, being brave there. I just didn't realize like that moment was also going to be setting you up being like, okay, it's going to get worse.
Oh yeah. Like, I don't want to jump there just yet, but, yeah. I do like that right after that, you get a moment where it's just like, hey, there's a friend that you made earlier on in the game that's ready to take you on to the next area, and there's like a new fire, like a new purpose, like put into Klonoa in the midst of all of this, and the music, like, God, the music is so good in that game, dude.
Yeah, it does a great job. What's crazy about the music is like not only does it a great job of just telling the story, helping you feel what you need to feel in the moment. And, being just, great earworms at the same time. How many composers does it have again? Do you remember? It's got a lot of people on it. It's not one, just not one person.
Yeah, it was a large collaborative effort. I want to say, I could be stretching this, but I want to say it was around 7 different people credited to composition for that particular game.
I was thinking 13, so it's got to be somewhere between 7 and 13.
Yeah, it could be. It was a lot. I think one of the other few games that I've seen have that many composers attached and it still turn out so good was the first Xenoblade Chronicles. Also was a huge collaborative effort of like a lot of big names in video game music.
It's just wild to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that moment, again, we're talking so out of order here. That moment is the first time we see Pamela no longer... you see her change back at the end of the boss fight, but then this is the reintroduction. Like, and she's no longer, this scary, sea creature. She's now obviously a force of good, like almost comes down like an angel, a fishy angel. with a nice little, it's not a violin, but the ground stringy thing, the big ground stringy thing. I don't know what those are called.
Like a cello?
Is it a cello? No, it's not a cello, is it? I'm gonna look that up. Cello.
That's like
no. Like
a harp?
It could be a harp. Harp sounds right.
I think you're thinking of a harp because a harp.
Yeah. What a crazy instrument that thing is, man. What a wild instrument that is.
That's got to be like probably.
Ethereal.
Yeah. Hey,
it looks like an instrument of the gods. What a cool thing. Anyway.
Well, no. I mean, that is the thing, though, isn't it? At that point, Klonoa is reaching into. You are hearing it from the beginning. It's like, hey, this is a princess from a kingdom, like not entirely of our world, like where we live. It is of a sealed off moon kingdom, and it feels incredibly out of reach. They may as well be gods. And so to be carried there by, is somebody who just can so casually take you to somewhere you can barely even dream of, that is like an almost supernatural experience for Klonoa himself.
Right. Oh.
And
man,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just like, brother, we are being the most disorganized set of people talking about this game. Hey, Wayne.
Yes. How's
the game played?
The gameplay is fun. Klonoa is a cute little game. Again, puzzle platformer. You're just moving from left to right most of the time, but it's a 2.5D, so the environment kind of curves around the three-dimensional center, and you're gradually introduced from smaller puzzles to big ones. Be like, hey, you can use these inflatable enemies to get yourself higher, essentially, giving yourself a little double jump. You've got these little moonstones, scattered around. You don't use them for currency for anything, but they do grant you extra lives if you collect enough of them. And there's a cute little thing that will happen if no, wait, nothing happens. It's just bragging rights if you get all the dreamstones. I forgot about that. No, you also have these like little villagers from that inhabit like the different areas that you're exploring, and you can rescue them. And if you rescue all 6 in a level, when you go to the map screen in between levels, like they will start playing a little part of a song, and the more that you save throughout the entire game, the more complete that song will be. It's cute.
It's, when you describe it, it's not too far off, and I don't think I'm the first person to make this comparison. I mean, there's obvious Kirby comparisons there.
Oh, yeah.
I was also thinking Yoshi's Story, except if Yoshi's Story wasn't so babyfied. It definitely is more in the realms of like Kirby 64 and Yoshi's Island in terms of mixing the cute with a real sense of adventure and danger.
Yeah.
It's a really, God, video games are so good, dude.
I think one of the things, too, I love about... I actually really enjoy the way Door to Phantomile looks in Reverie series, but man, the PS1 original is such a good... So I don't know the term. It was used for Donkey Kong Country, where you would start with like a 3D model and then sort of like rasterize it into pixel art, and then use sprites based off of like a rendered 3D model. I know that for Klonoa, they did it so that they could maintain a consistent 60 frames per second, for smoother action. Mixing...
Yeah, it's a really smooth game. It's really, really smooth.
Oh, butter smooth. The environments are all 3D. Again, PlayStation 1, so, very blocky and whatnot, although I think it uses a lot of that to its advantage because the simplicity of the design of that world is used to good effect. Like, it's not just, it's just basic. No, like, the simplicity is an asset. And the 2D sprites for the characters, like, kind of layered on top of that, it makes for such a unique look, and it still holds up incredibly well today, I believe.
I guess that's why I wanted your opinion. Like, this is where I wonder if I'm being a bit nostalgic or not. I do think that there's been a lot of low poly coming back in terms of an art style for the indie scene. I do still feel that Klonoa 1 had a beautiful energy to it and a beautiful art direction. And I do think they made all that work together wonderful. You know what? No, it does just look better. It just looks more unique, and it looks more lively than any of the re-releases. I do still think the game would have done better if they had been bold and gone Octopath Traveler with it, with that re-release.
I wish it was at least an option.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Probably would have been costly, but that first game just looks so damn good. I still think it looks great. I think it looks better than any of the re-releases.
I agree.
By a country mile.
I do think that the Wii make is like... That is the...
It's pretty.
Yeah. I think Reverie is better.
I agree.
Yeah.
There is some problems with it, though.
Yeah. Oh, I think
it's built on the bones of the Wii version.
Right.
But like some of the camera angles, I know specifically in the Moon Kingdom, during one of the cutscenes, Klonoa is just standing on this little corridor path, and you can see him clearly. But in Reverie, that same cutscene, they use the shorter, tinier model for him, so you can't see most of his face because it's covered by a handrail. And like things like that.
Yeah, and it's stuff that's like, they say that limitation breeds creativity.
Sure.
When you're working in a smaller box, you have to control more of what goes on in there. When the possibilities are too broad, you get a little bit of like choice overload, and you're spreading the icing too thin across like a too great a plane. It's why I admire pixel art to this day and why it's still so heavily utilized. It's why I think that low poly visuals in games can still be used really well. Mouthwashing actually is a fantastic example. I don't want to give any specific examples because I'd prefer if you and hopefully the listeners get to experience that firsthand. But there's a lot of visuals that I saw in there where I'm thinking to myself that there's an ethereal kind of nature to this that I think that the low poly models mixed with the crunchy textures kind of layered on top of it, you would lose that if it wasn't portrayed that way. Like, it is not a lesser form of presentation. It is almost a medium of its own right.
I not only agree with you there, I do think that when you consider when the game was released, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 97 or 98? It doesn't really matter. By that point in the system's lifespan for PS1, I mean, that had been out for almost 5 years at that point, because 94 is when PlayStation launched. And if Dreamcast was either out or nearly out, maybe not then.
Well, Dreamcast would have been 99.
99 for us in the States.
True, that's a good point, actually.
Whatever the case is, but whatever the case is, by the time Dreamcast came out, like, they had a handle on these kind of 3D graphics. Like, they really were kind of pushing the PlayStation to, like, this is the most this thing can do. Like Metal Gear Solid, all those other things. Like, this is the most we can get out of the processing power of this machine. And I think Klonoa is the pinnacle of what you can do with the art direction on that machine in a lot of ways. Again, Metal Gear Solid and all those other things, they do it in their own way. But Klonoa, I think, did that weird mixture of a sprite on a 3D environment about as beautifully as you can do, because we did have another game similar to it, that being Pandemonium, came out much earlier in the system's life cycle. Uses a full 3D, polygonal character, still on a 2.5D thing. Looks way more, looks prehistoric in comparison, if I'm honest with you. So no, I do think it goes more than just nostalgia. I do think they did what they had to do, but they also made it damn pretty while they did it.
It's something I admire about the creative process sometimes, where something that starts, another great example, because I've spoken a lot about these games on my channel before, but Gravity Rush, like, not the go-to game series maybe when it comes to talking about creative use of hindered draw distance, but the Bond Dessiné inspired like backgrounds and the way that it like evolves and or devolves, I guess, and turns into like a comic book kind of backdrop the further you get away from it. That was a concession made for the fact that it was made for the PlayStation Vita, and you can't have a lot of draw distance for that. But then it added this element to it that was just like, here's this really unique aspect of this that, like, I can't think of many other games having. I mean, the more obvious example is, hey, the fog in Silent Hill. But when you can take something that is just a response to limitation and make it a memorable core feature, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree. And I don't know, like, not to take away from anybody that worked on Fantasy Reverie. I can understand why they used the Wii assets as much as they did. I mean, like, there's a bit more consistency between the two games. But yeah, I wish they would have at least given you the option to have that original game in its original format available somewhere, because you really do lose a lot in that transition. You lose a ton, and that original game is worth a lot of money, and unless you have a PSP or PS3 still hooked up, you can't get it.
Yeah.
I really do hope, I mean, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I really do hope that becomes one of the games available in PlayStation's roster of re-released retro games. I would play that game in a heartbeat again for another set of trophies to unlock.
I would be so happy if it
I still need to get the PS5 version. I swore to myself, I said this in my video, I bought the PS1. I say buy, I was a kid. I got it as a present. I got that, and Klonoa was my first game for that machine.
Yeah.
Got PlayStation 2 for Klonoa 2. Like, I love the Dreamcast, but I saw Klonoa 2 there, and I was like, it's done. It's over. Like, I need to play Klonoa 2. Those were the games for my PlayStation. PlayStation 3 came out, and I finally buckled because I wanted to play MGS4, and I was like, the other two didn't do great. I guess it's not going to get a Klonoa 3. I still downloaded the original game when it became available, first thing. And, obviously I've had, PlayStation machines since then without Klonoa because it wasn't there. But now that they've re-released it so many times, it's like, it'd be kind of special just to have it on the 4 and 5. Like, yeah, you know what, fine. It wasn't on the 3, but it still feels kind of special seeing Klonoa on every version of the PlayStation currently available. At least as much as it can be. Technically, you can play the original game on the 3, on the PSP, and on the Vita.
Yeah.
Which is cool still. But I really need them to re-release that first game digitally again with the updated graphics. It's just a smoother in a emulator. That's all it is. I know that.
Yeah.
With some trophies. Well, shout out. This is a little bit off topic. I keep saying this every time. I did not know that PlayStation, when they were re-releasing those games, they still included purchases from the digital versions of those games. So, for example, Toy Story 2, I bought that years ago during a sale because when they still did digital sales for their original PlayStation 1 releases.
Sure.
So that's been sitting on my Vita, that's been sitting on my PSP, and then one day on my PS4, there it was again. And I didn't have to sign up for anything. It was just there because I had bought it years ago. So shout out to them for that.
I love stuff like that. I know that they can't do that with every game. A lot of it depends on, I think, the rights holder. But I love it when, like, I'm still waiting. The main reason I keep my PS4 around is for the digital version of Ape Escape 2 because it runs like crap on the PS5. But it runs just fine on the PS4. But I know that recently...
That really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That was like one of my big disappointments when... Because I remember, I think the only time I've ever done a console review was I did a review of the PlayStation 5 when it came out. And one of the big things that I complained about was these digital PS4 games. Like, you can still download them and like play them on your PS5, but they've got to the point now where they'll just have a little blurb at the beginning that just says, hey, this might not work the way it's intended because the emulator isn't really formatted for the PS5. Dude,
that's interesting. I thought that the emulator only came back because of the PS5.
No, it was actually there. And when you try to play the previous version of like Ape Escape 2 on the PS5, textures are glitching all over the place. It looks like a strobe show. It's so irritating to the eyes. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. You're talking about the PS2 games. Yeah, those were originally for PS4.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, because I bought
PS1 games. Yeah, PS1 games came back after the PS5 came out, if I'm remembering right.
That's correct. In fact, part of the reason I have a little bit of hope that Klonoa could come back in that format is one of the first PS1 games that made it over to the PS5 was Ridge Racer Type 4, which, you know, it's also Namco and also came with a demo for Door to Phantomile. So, slight connection. I can dream.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. I mean, I guess, like, let's be real. We're only gonna be able to talk about Klonoa 1 today.
That dawned on me.
Yeah. And we're already a little bit all over the place there. I can't help it, though. I'm sorry. Like, I still have to talk about this because it bothers me in general. The general release of Fantasy Reverie still really, really, really bothers me.
The fact that we didn't even get a physical release in America, like ever, not even through a limited run or something, I was really expecting that.
I'm still pretty offended by that, and I'm still more offended that Pac-Man Repack got like a special edition and everything.
Yeah, I bought Pac-Man Repack out of Walmart. Like, why not Klonoa?
Yeah, I don't know. And what also happened is, I remember this very clearly. I was hounding one of our mutual friends. I'm not going to name him because he got scolded a little bit for even saying that he had the game. But like some of our mutuals, I was trying to bother people for review codes. And then I just said, well, screw it. I'm going to still support it, get it on Steam. Namco had a sale, like a Namco specific sale, while the game was being released on Steam, and you could not find hide nor hair of the thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what happened there. Like, you couldn't pre-order it. You couldn't, like, pre-download it. It was... It just... I don't know. They didn't really seem to have faith in it doing well here in the States at the very least.
Well...
Which is a shame.
It's also just a problem that I have with, like, the American branch of Bandai Namco. They are terrible at marketing. I remember the same thing happened with Digimon Survive. That... Oh my god, the way that game was released. Nobody knew what it was, for one thing, and then it was barely talked about leading up to it. And then they had the gall to release it on the same day as Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Really?
Yeah. It's a good game, too. It is. It's just... that's a tragedy for a different day. The one thing...
maybe you should tell me about it in a video or something.
Oh, well, we'll get to Survive. Oh, God, will we get to Survive. That's that is a horror game.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about that one in the future, actually. But one thing at the very least that they got right with the Fantasy Reverie series was they released that game on my birthday. I was very excited when they announced that. They were like,
they released it on my birthday.
They did. Well, it was like the trailer showed up during a Nintendo Direct, and I was already freaking out. And then I was yelling to my roommate, Amanda, because we were both freaking out over it. And she was like, it comes out on July 8th. And I was like, no, it doesn't.
Oh, man. Yeah, I do remember that. We were very, very excited. We were very, very, very excited. I'm very proud of both of us for having streamed that specific Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
So both of our reactions to that announcement still exist out there in the world. I'm very thankful for that. I'm glad we can go look back at these moments of joy in our lives, where a game can be re-released for the third damn time and we do not care.
It's why I'm like, I'm sad that like my work schedule has kept me so busy. For some reason, specifically on days that these presentations always are. Like, I don't remember the last time I had a day off during one of these presentations I cared about. You gonna be watching the new Sonic 3 trailer on Monday?
I probably should. I mean, I probably should be streaming that.
Yeah.
I should get some. some mango for my bucko.
I don't know if I'll stream it, but if you stream it, I might pop in if that's cool.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to have you on. Yeah, I mean, especially since I should save this for the end of the video or something. By the time this is available for outside of your patrons and stuff, I will have a big giant video edited by our good friend Channel Pup. So my Shadow Generations video is finally done, available for my patrons right now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a little bit of a breather and just stream again. I'm cleaning up my game room this weekend. I'm gonna try some Christmas lights up, and gonna watch a trailer that's gonna get ad blocked anyway because Paramount.
Oh. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what else got ad blocked because of Paramount?
What's that?
The second half of Klonoa Door to Phantomile.
Did it really?
No. That was...
Oh. Is that your transition?
That's all I got.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Don't you get tired of just giving the synopsis for things?
I do.
It's a podcast. I don't want to.
Yeah, because it's just what do you say? Oh, you go to this level, and then this happens. And you go to this level, and this happens. I'm more interested...
Noah is a cat with rabbit ears. But is he a cat? Is he a rabbit? Is he a puppy dog? I don't know.
I'm more interested in, complaining about the loss of the particle effect from the walkway outside of the tower in the penultimate level of the game.
It's those kind of things where it's just I'm sorry, but they were having fun on the PlayStation. They were look what this thing can do. Isn't that neat? That's pretty neat.
How did the PS1 version have a more dreamy element than its re-releases? Was that part still gone in Reverie? Am I misremembering?
No, it was still gone. It was still the assets of the Wii version, which was just like flat stone or concrete.
Yeah,
or not
that's
concrete.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a flat stone balcony. And
yep.
in the original, it's like a cloud of floating rocks and stars fall from your feet, and there's a little a wind chime that plays as you walk over it, and the music that's playing, and this is the first of the last two levels of the game, when you're in the Moon Kingdom. Things are as dark as they can be at this point. And it is this slow, somber melody. Another thing I adore about the game is that it transitions between these. There's a background element of the music that's gone when you're inside, but when you go outside, the music has more depth to it.
It's the music's playing outside. Is what it's like. It's you can hear it outside. I love that little attention to detail. It's really, really cool.
And this really is just one of the coolest games on the PS1. There's so much to it.
Yeah. I mean, we're mostly talking about the art direction and the music direction as well. But I mean, even with the gameplay, I don't think it's gonna blow anyone's socks off. I think I said in my video, I gave a bit of a warning there because by the time you get to my video, you probably heard from other YouTubers this is one of the greatest games ever made, blah 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 blah. But when you play it, it's not gonna blow your socks off in terms of platforming prowess. Mario has done all it can do in terms of mastering what this is supposed to be by this point. Sonic still stands out just in terms of the general movement for what a platformer can do. This one is not doing anything mind-blowing, but it is still being creative. It's just doing everything very, very well.
It's got its moments too, where it's just oh, you're in the Sun Kingdom. The eclipse is kind of fading in and out, so there are certain nightmare enemies that are warping between phases, and the level will kind of hinder or benefit you in different ways depending on which phase it's in.
It's at that point in the game where they can play with the mechanics. You should have a handle on them. Now we're gonna throw in a new element that really kind of trips you up.
Yeah. and then and then you get to like the cutscene right before the final level, where you find out that your best friend Hupo, who's with you from the beginning. We haven't mentioned Hupo.
We haven't mentioned a lot. We haven't mentioned Klonoa, dude.
That's also true. Yeah.
Like, it's just full for yeah.
This really is the we assume you've played this kind of podcast.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
But like that moment where Hupo is kind of explaining, it's just like, hey, I'm the prince of this kingdom, and you're kind of here to help us, like do this, that, or the other, and you see a little bit of Klonoa's, like, he kind of gets that sense that he's like, oh, I've been manipulated a bit here, but, you know, in his brain, he's still just like, hey, nah, but we've been friends forever. Yeah, you know, of course I'm gonna help you out. Like, I would do that regardless. Mm-hmm. And I've said this like 50 times, but oh my God, the music that plays in that final level, it's so good. They use, I think, something that I absolutely love about the soundtrack to Klonoa, and again, because we mentioned there's so many hands in it, so it's impressive that it's as cohesive as an OST as it is. But the way that so many tracks utilize different wind instruments, completely, since this is a character that uses wind as an element for most of his attacks and movement. So the fact that you've got flutes and trumpets and wind chimes and everything, like there's all of these different like wind-based instruments that are used in a variety of ways throughout the game. I always loved that touch.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. There's so many little details to love about this game. I think that's why when some of those details are lost, like, our tisms really kick in. I think that's why we you and me specifically have complained as loudly as we have about the newer re-releases, even though they're solid. They're really solid. But why fix what's not broken?
And that's like, I'll never be like, oh, you played a lesser version of Klonoa 1 because you played the version on the Switch. Like, I'm not gonna do that. You still played a game that means a lot to me, and the some of its parts is more than just like the small details that got lost, but it's not to say that those small details don't still matter, and we can't still lament that they are gone. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I do wonder, thinking about it now, if they do re-release the original game on that PlayStation stuff, if that will ironically enough get more eyes on it than the Fantasy Reverie does.
It would be interesting. I'm still like looking back at those FMVs, the way that those are animated. Oh my gosh, dude, they're like,
oh my god.
Well, it was in an era where you had to show off, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the jarring element of the presentation of the game shifting to something else entirely made a certain level of sense, because it's like, oh, hey, the Moon Kingdom is being summoned, and it is this cataclysmic event. Like, the world is growing dark. This kingdom is just like descending from the heavens. The ground beneath it is ripping apart. It's a big deal. And then Klonoa's snarling little face, it just doesn't hit the same in the remake. But it's done like it was a production. Like that, those moments were animated on the level that you would have done a feature film in that era. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think that the animation in the FMVs, like, please stop me if I'm being over dramatic here. The work that went into those PS1 FMVs, I think, rival the work of Pixar from that same era. Like,
I don't think you're off. I mean, I think that was very much the intention. I mean, I kind of touched on that in my video, where I was saying, like, remember when this came out, this was more than just trying to, I don't know, like we're so inundated with CG stuff to the point where we're like, please show us actual gameplay, because like graphics to this point can just look pretty enough on their own. You don't need CG. Like, they've used CG to the point where they're like trying to pretend it's gameplay. Like, that's how good in-game graphics have become. Back then, they were a selling point. They were here to show you, like, we can tell cinematic stories. Final Fantasy VII sold itself strictly on the cutscenes. Like, that's what the commercial showed, and it easily became the most popular of the series.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the PlayStation sold itself on. So, yes, like, following the trends of the day, as video games always tend to do, Klonoa did the same with its cutscenes, and they did it brilliantly, and I missed that.
I was always wondering if at some point there was going to be some sort of fan mod for the PC release that, you know, when you hit those key points in the Phantomile game, like, it'll just play the FMV from the PS1 version. To my knowledge, such a mod does not exist.
No, and I know it's a naughty word now. I do wonder if AI upscaling could help those out these days. I don't know. I do wish.
There is also a difference between like using AI as like a tool for like filtering and stuff versus like generative AI, which is usually the problem.
Agreed completely. Man, I really do wish it would have made all the difference in the world if I could have just had like a little sprite Klonoa as an unlockable for Fantasy Reverie.
Yeah, okay. Actually, let's touch on that. In Reverie, do you remember the the stupid like pixelated filter they added?
What was that? What actually was that?
What was that supposed to look like? Not the PS1 game, that's for sure.
I could be a bit dramatic here. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I had it on briefly, but it was borderline unplayable.
It looked bad, my guy. It looked like trying to parse it through a stained glass window.
Yeah, it's just like, who is this for?
Yeah.
Is it for me? Because just put the old game in there. Just put it in.
Yeah.
You can do it.
It's like, I will always just want. I feel like I mention it all the time. I think I mentioned it last podcast. The Medieval remake, just having the PS1 game as an unlockable in there, just makes it so insane to me that more games don't do that.
It's wild to me that, I mean, Metroid did it. Like, Metroid Prime did that originally. I don't know why they didn't do that again. Money, Nintendo, that's why. But like, well, yeah, and Sonic Generations, I'm sorry, why'd you take out Sonic 1? Why'd you do it? Like, it is such a lovely extra.
What?
So Sonic Generations, the original console release of that had Sonic 1 available in the hub world.
Did it really?
Yes.
Okay, so I've only ever played the original Generations on Steam. Was it not on that?
Not on Steam. It's only on Xbox 360 and PS3.
Oh no, wait, this is ringing a bell. Okay, yeah, because now isn't it replaced with like an ad for Sonic Origins?
I don't know if that's a meme or not. I'm going to, full confession here, I've not popularly played through Sonic's campaign since Shadow Gens dropped. Shadow Gens is so damn good on its own.
If you play the remaster of Sonic Generations, please get back to me. I need to know if I'm crazy or if it legitimately does feel different.
I'm gonna compare the two. I'm gonna do a video comparing like all the versions of Sonic Generations, because it does feel off to me, and I wasn't sure if it's like, am I just out of practice or is there something else going on here?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that another time. But actually, maybe we'll talk about it in January, because I'm dragging you on stage with me at MagFest.
Oh shoot, that's right. We just before this podcast recording, we actually both got confirmation. This is such a disorganized discussion. We both got our confirmations that we're doing panels at MagFest 2025 this year. Very excited. Mine is going to be from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Thursday night, so it'll be the first official day of the convention, about the wild world of Digimon video games, the history of video game releases for the franchise, and just what a weird little ride it has been.
And mine is called Is Sonic Finally Good Again? And that will be mine is mine is 10:30 to 11:30 p.m. Saturday night.
Oh hell yeah.
That is awesome.
And then we're going right to that that roof bar after, right?
Maybe. I'll let's wait till we're off the show, because oh man, that was a precious night. I was so proud of you. I was so proud. Oh man,
that was a fun time.
Wayne can cut loose when he's drunk, ladies and gentlemen.
There's no
test. You'll prove it.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Mag.
Me too. I feel like even though we're disorganized, we could probably talk about Klonoa forever if we really wanted to.
We're really good. I mean, this is us just rambling mostly about one game.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's how these conversations tend to go, and that's what makes podcasts so special.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to get on for another discussion just about Lunatea's Veil at some point, because that's another game that I feel like really warrants.
Let me do my video on it at some point. You know what's embarrassing for me to confess about Lunatea's Veil? I've only ever played through it fully twice. The original release and when it came back out for Fantasy Reverie. And I don't like it as much as one.
Well,
like, nowhere near as much as I like one.
That's the thing, because that's going back to what I said before, is like that's why my video might be a little different now than it was before, because I remember saying that, like, oh, Klonoa 2 is like a step up in every regard. I think on some levels that's true, but overall it is a game that, like...
Sorry. Ugh, still have a cold.
You're fine, buddy. It is a game that, like, overstates its welcome a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Versus, like, Door to Phantomile, which is a brisk, like, 4-hour game, maybe. It is, you can blast through that. Whereas Lunatea's Veil feels padded in the sense that, like, you're going back over similar areas multiple times, and
some of the levels drag on too long. Sometimes, like, the game has a problem with making you feel like this was a waste of time.
Yeah.
By the end of some levels. And that's... Again, we'll save that conversation for another day, but yeah, like, I love the game. Genuinely love the game. I don't like it as much as the first one. I think the first one is a genuine masterpiece that I could recommend to everybody.
It is like, it's you go through such a wave of emotions and feelings and sights and sounds and everything just in like 4 to 5 hours.
It's a proper adventure. It's a proper adventure in all senses of the word, where you go on a journey, you see the world, and you grow. And growing is a beautiful but painful process. It's a great game. The story is compelling, it's simple and charming, and it's an elegant way to touch on some really challenging feelings, no matter what age you are. It does it with grace, and it does it beautifully. And the gameplay itself is easy enough to understand, and man, it's clever. I mean, that last final secret level is there to just say, kids, kid gloves are off. We knew what we were doing this whole time. Yeah. Let's see if you do. I love it.
And
love it.
It's so interesting too, just because it's like you're going from location to location and you're discovering the sense of identity that the inhabitants of these areas all have. They'll be like, here's our culture, here's where we live, here is like who we are and everything. And they know who they are. Like they they have their lives kind of figured out. They're set, like, and things are coming around to distort that and to try and shift and change them. Only for at the very end, you find that your best friend has been doing that to you from the very beginning, is taking Klonoa and just sort of warping and molding him into what he needed, in not letting him discover for himself who he is. I think that Klonoa's identity and who he is as a person, like, shines through, especially as he does grow throughout that journey. But there is, like, a very interesting kind of, like, theme of identity, I think, throughout the game.
And I think it's like the inverse of Link's Awakening in a lot of ways. You know, the hero has to be sacrificed for the sake of the world, as opposed to the world has to be sacrificed for the sake of the hero. Well, not even so much Link himself, but, you know, for the dreamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also, I think, is a great look at what dreams are and how they make us feel. Where you could be caught in the middle of a dream and it could be just your reality until you wake up, and then it's suddenly not. And you almost feel, I don't know, like wistful, like a bittersweet sadness to, like, oh, this is now gone. You know, like this is just something that was just a part of you, and it was the most important thing in the world up until you woke up. And I think that sadness of waking up from a beautiful dream is captured beautifully. I think the idea of what a dream is well constructed in this world.
It is this ideal friendship, you know. I know we have skipped over a lot of details and everything. At the end of the day, what matters is you take on the bad guys, you beat them, you return home. Things aren't quite the way they're supposed to be just yet, but, you know, Princess is gonna sing her song, the world's gonna kind of reset, and that's when it's revealed that when the world is brought back to its natural state, Klonoa won't be there, because that's not where he belongs. It's the weight dropping where Hupo is just like, the memories that you have of us growing up together, being friends and everything, they're all fake. Like, we implanted those in your head so we could basically mold you into the model hero that we would need now. And Klonoa doesn't care.
No, he wants to be in, because again, like, that's what his reality is, and he doesn't want to, you know, leave it. What I think is interesting, this is something I wanted to talk about when I kind of analyzed the ending of the game versus the ending of the second game. Like, if this game just exists on its own terms, is, you know, without the, you know, the franchise building out from there, because Klonoa obviously has a base design no matter where he's at as a dream traveler. But if you look at that original game, like the inhabitants of the Wind Village, you compare it to his grandpa, and again, like the Wind Village guys that pop out from the bubbles and stuff like that, they all look like Klonoa. So, is Klonoa inhabiting a body that makes sense for Phantomile, and he doesn't actually look like that in his own waking world? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I've kind of wondered about that too, just because you do see, you know, creatures like Klonoa in there. Because even Balu, I think, kind of resembles him to some degree, just like a different kind of take on the species.
Balu like throws a wrench into the, is it a cat or a rabbit or is it a dog? I think that's what Balu, like they like the designer of Klonoa said, like, it's not supposed to be anything specific, but it is supposed to remind you of all three of these things. So yeah. Balu is definitely the same species as Klonoa, and that's for sure.
And it leaves a lot of doors open, where it's just like Klonoa himself is not made up of a dream the way that the world of Phantomile is, and maybe Klonoa dreamed up that world, so maybe that's why the inhabitants look like him. maybe the other sections, the other regions are the dreams of other people, kind of like manifesting as their own little parts of this world. I kind of like to think of it that way.
It's almost, it's hard to think of it. Well, I mean, like, there are some comics that kind of, it depends on how canon you consider them. Like, there's a webcomic out there that basically just confirms Klonoa looks like this. Cupo does exist in a dream world, this and that and the other.
Yeah.
Which almost just feels like it's not really looking into the deeper themes of it, if I'm honest with you. Like, it's very surface level. Because, like, I do think if you analyze it a little bit deeper, it's like, yeah, like, if this is a dreamer, because, like, they play this out like you are the dreamer. Like, the player is the dreamer.
Okay.
So it could be because you have to write your name there, like when you close the book at the end of the game.
Yeah, choked me up the first time I played it too.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But it could be like, you know, in the terms of Knights, where it's like you are the dream traveler, because I mean you're a human being who has dreams, and you visited this world and you helped see it through, because it's us playing through the adventure and saving the world and all that stuff. So it could be seen in that front, on the more meta level there, that the player is the dreamer. Or, you know, take a step removed, like Klonoa does look like that, and he's interpreting his real world in this dream fashion. Or another step removed from that, Phantomile is just its own reality that can be, because realities exist in dreams. Like, dreams are their own reality, which I do think is a thing that the franchise overall is saying is a thing. But I did like examining the game when it first came out on all three of those fronts. I mean, I didn't do this deep of a dive as a kid, but it did make me think for a while. And I just like that, you know, like, you can have those fun thought experiments with what they're doing there.
Yeah.
I'm really mad that Data book never got financed or promoted or supported or anything. Did you hear about that?
The data book?
So, the creator of Klonoa really wanted to release a book just diving into the creation of Klonoa, like all the behind the scenes stuff of Klonoa. And that franchise is aching for explanation in a lot of ways. And I do think a lot of that could be ruined if we saw a little bit too much behind the curtains, but I also really want to see like some of the thought process behind this, because like one of the mangas, have you read the mangas?
I have not, sadly.
So one of the mangas is like a bunch of like short jokes and stuff like that, but they only make sense if you've played the first game. Like, it was made like the dev team helped make the book.
Okay.
And you could tell it's a little bit too much a little bit too much inside baseball. So like, if you had not played the game, it wouldn't make sense to you.
Yeah.
In sense at all. Like, you could tell these were people that these jokes are just for people who have thought too damn much about this one. Like, there are jokes about the stupid giant fish skeleton in the cavern. That kind of deep cut sort of thing. Okay,
I kind of love that though.
So you need to read it, because like, it does almost it does it in a joking fashion, but it also kind of helps explain the canon a little bit better, in my opinion. Because again, these are jokes made by folks that created all of this to begin with. And one of them, like one of these comics made me think, oh, this is why I want this data book, because no matter what I thought of, they thought of it first. So when I thought I was being a clever little guy thinking like, oh, if Klonoa leaves, does that mean Grandpa comes back to life because like the world's renewed and stuff like that? There's a joke about it in this book.
Oh.
Like it's a thoroughly well thought out fiction is what I'm trying to get at. And I desperately want more of it, because the guy who created Klonoa has been banging the drum. He's been behind every re-release. Like, he's been, backing his boy all this time, all 25 of these years.
Well, that was a man that like started this franchise with drive. Like, he wanted to create a platformer that had a higher emphasis on story. Like, he was like, we can do more.
Yeah.
It's why I'm just like, the other heartbreaking thing for me is we almost had a movie, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder if that was like he's getting a bit too big for his britches kind of a thing in terms of like what we're trying to accomplish here.
Maybe.
I never thought a movie was going to get off the ground.
It was described as a reimagining of the story of Door to Phantomile, so I think it would have kind of taken a lot of those same ideas but gone in a different direction with it, maybe, or at least taken a different structure. But it's just like
There's a lot of that though. There's a lot of that throughout there's no consistent canon in Klonoa, and I think like the very nature of being a dream traveler demands that a bit. But
maybe the only two games that feel like they fit together like chronologically are 1 and 2.
yes,
Everything
absolutely.
else just feels like, oh, okay, sure.
Everything else does feel like it doesn't even feel like side stories. It just feels like other canon, and that goes for the mangas as well.
I find it very funny that the big nasty nightmare monster from the first game, Nahatum, is like he's like a mafia boss in the volleyball game or something. Like
Yeah. Yeah, that's just, you can tell like it's just them trying to create a franchise at this point. Like we got great character designs, we have a roster, we have to fill it out somehow. Let's get weird with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you feel that does that strengthen or weaken what the first game brought to the table, do you feel?
I think column A, column B. I honestly think what the franchise needs, if it has a future, is a Klonoa 3 that feels to Lunatea's Veil as Lunatea's Veil felt to Door to Phantomile.
Agreed.
Yeah, because like, hey, you'll play the first GBA game. I can't think of the name of it at the moment. And Hupo will be back. And so you get your reference to Klonoa 1. You'll play Dream Champ Tournament, and you've got Popko and Popka and Lolo are there. You have your references to Klonoa 2. Klonoa 2, though, like as a full game, is just like, it doesn't talk about Klonoa 1, but it does like
it
in the background. That's something in
its bones. You can see Klonoa 1, like especially at the ending there. You can see some very, very obvious themes connecting 1 and 2 there, and I do love how subtle it is about it.
Yeah, there's a level even as you're playing through it, like that has like a callback to the first one that's just like downright heartbreaking if you stop to like recognize and think about it. And it's moody and really good on its own terms. Like it looks good because like they did create Klonoa 2. There's a big 2 on the end of it, but I mean this was basically a launch game. This was like launch window game. Yeah.
So it was likely like a lot of folks didn't ever play the first one before touching 2. And like it works on its own on every front, but there is enough there by the end of the game. You're wondering, oh, what the hell's the connection to Klonoa 1? Then you get to the end of the game, and it doesn't flat out say it, but you go, oh.
Yeah, and it is just like when you kind of like sit there and recognize, God, we got to talk about that game at some point.
Yes.
My question, and I'm wondering if maybe this is a better question for after we've talked about 2.
We're still hitting on I think this conversation piece is okay because we're still staying in the realm of 1 and how it affected other things.
Because my question is, if we got a third mainline game, if we got like one more like big effort, should it be a finale?
Yes.
Instead of just dragging out this poor franchise and just Venture Brothers hoping it will get renewed and renewed and renewed until it finally gets canceled, take that moment to just be like, let's bring it full circle. Let's tell the ending of the story. We know how it goes. We understand how this franchise has been received. I don't want to give up on it, but I also just want it to just kind of be real with itself and just kind of be like, I think we deserve a big out, but also it's just like, it's okay to just say, like, we did it. You know what I mean?
So this circles back around to Klonoa 1 in the sense that one of the largest talking points of that game is the ending. They know how to end a story in a powerful way. I think Klonoa in general deserves that big, final, powerful ending on its own terms. And I do think it deserves a finale. I do think a Klonoa 3 to really wrap it all up, say, hey, we gave it an honest go, like a lot of people love it, but not quite enough to keep it at the level, you know, like it's never going to be Sonic. It's just not. It's not going to be any of these other. It tried desperately to be, you know, another iconic mascot platformer. It's just not, and it shouldn't be. So if we got a 3, I don't think we'll ever get a 3. But if we got a 3, yeah, I do think it should be a finale. I don't know if it should be any callbacks or anything like that. But if the guy pushing this series still, and was even teasing like, oh, I'd like to do a data book, it just means like there's so much in his head that he wants to get out there, he wants to share. I believe he's got enough passion to give us one last great story. Even if the mechanics don't really shift a whole lot, they don't need to.
Yeah.
Like there's enough there to really tie it all together, give us one last great game, and just call it.
I will say, especially because the ending of the first game is as powerful as it is, I would say it would defeat the purpose of that title if we went the easy route and just been like, oh, he gets to go back to Phantomile at the end, he gets to be with like his first dream world and his first best friend, you know, yada yada. Please don't do that. I feel like that goes against not only what made the ending of the first game so heartfelt and like so heart-wrenching, it goes against his growth that we got to see in 2. My ideal for like seeing this franchise go out is like the end of the need for a dream traveler, and then show me it sounds so corny. Show me a scene of Klonoa waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's what I want, and I'm just like, we're gonna reach a point where we are the generation that got latched onto this character like somehow in like some form or another. How many kids picked up Reverie series? Like how many?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure they're out there, and I really hope that's the case. Like I want to believe that there's a new generation of kids that are like picking this up and like they're really loving what they're playing. But we're in our circle. We hear how people our age respond to this franchise. It's kind of hard to say how the younger demographic that would actually keep a franchise like this alive for longer, like how many of them are there?
Not enough to get us a physical copy over here. That much is for sure.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Limited Run to bring this game out, and it feels weird. I almost feel cheated, if I'm honest with you, because Tomba got the Klonoa treatment I expected it. You know, like it got that big fancy edition I was expecting. Who knows? They could do it. I mean, there's no reason they can't. They just re-release random like mid-tier N64 games all the time. Glover came out not too long ago. Battle Tanks is now up on their store for some I don't know.
Yeah, in a physical release.
I'm getting it because it's green.
Yeah.
Game sucks.
In a physical release that costs more than an authentic original cartridge.
On both fronts.
Yeah.
Like for Turok 2, I think Turok 1. Probably not 3 at this point. Glover, and the game we were just talking about, Battle Tanks. Yeah, they're getting proper physical re-releases, and none of them are worth jack. Those games aren't worth anything. That's very weird.
Like
I can't wait for Buck Bumble to get one. Buck Bumble will get one.
At the very least, I wanted a replica of the ring or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
give me something, dude. At least we got the vinyl, right?
We got vinyls. We got the Nendroid.
The little cassettes. I'm looking at the Nendroid right now. Good little boy. I'm glad we have him. If they do, if they do one of Lunatea Klonoa, I'll get that too.
Same here. Same here. Yeah, I mean, I've said all I can really say at this point because it is getting kind of late into the night here. So I'm gonna have to wrap it pretty soon. But I could talk about Klonoa forever.
It is funny because we actually started the discussion talking about how like the one thing that gets discussed the most is the ending, and we didn't really touch on it a lot. Like the actual ending of the game, which maybe that's for the best.
Yeah, like I still want to kind of like pick it apart for a video, if I'm honest with you. Like you talk about like videos for you, that has been my video for me for a while.
Yeah,
and I still have enough faith in my audience that they love their little furries enough that they will at least latch on to Nick talking about an emotional furry story, which is my bread and butter, I suppose, at this point.
I do think that maybe that is a discussion that's just like, one, for this purposes, if anything that we've talked about in this disjointed cacophony of word salad has interested you, go play Klonoa. A Reverie series, I know we've jabbed at it. I would still recommend it. Like, a Reverie series is still a good way to play that game.
Actually, now that you're mentioning it, let's go onto Steam right now. It probably won't be the same case.
Oh, true.
For those of you who are listening to the public version of this podcast, but
I mean, it might be up there within a week.
At the very least, it does make me happy knowing that the game is available to the wider audience right now. What is this? Oh, this is insane.
Oh, Klonoa 3?
So, okay. All right. So let me whine a little bit here. This is offensive to me.
Uh-oh.
So I'm looking at the trailer, and it's going through all the games, and like the trailer opens up with the original CG of the first game, like the 25th anniversary of Klonoa.
Yeah.
And then it goes through the rest of the games. They should have just released all the games in this package. I'm a little irritated.
It is weird that
the game's
like
still $40. All reviews. Oh, that's because I'm on the special bundle. This is another thing I got to complain about real quick, because this is insane. The special bundle is a DLC pack for $20, and the second thing's a digital art book and soundtrack, and 4 outfit DLCs.
It's not worth that much money.
No, and I'll be real with you here, as old as this game is released 2022 at this point, should not be $40. It's full price. It's still full price on Steam.
If we want to talk about overpriced Klonoa apparel, do you remember the pre-order bonus for the Klonoa we make?
Are you talking about those ears?
Talking about the hat.
I don't know where that was a pre-order bonus for, because if that was going to be a GameStop one, I would have bought it instantaneously.
I don't think it was GameStop. For all I know, it might have been like a Europe exclusive or like Namco exclusive. I don't know.
It might be.
Oh, here's a listing on eBay for $500.
Okay.
What?
Well, I don't love them that much.
Go
buy a Pac-Man hat. Go buy a Pac-Man hat. Go buy a Pac-Man hat.
I want the hat, but I can't. Listen, I've spent a lot of money on some pretty stupid stuff, but I've got a limit.
Let's see. I'm going to type in... So instead of the thing you did, like an idiot, I'm going to type in blue Pac-Man hat. Huh? There we go. There we go. Here we go. Give me a second here.
Blue Pac-Man
Copy
hat.
Image. And over to you. There. Now you're Klonoa.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna shimmy this onto the. Let me see.
Crying out loud. Ridiculous.
There we go. I'm gonna put that on your head. I never shared share screened this with you, did I?
No, you sure didn't,
Oh.
champ.
Oh well. Well, just know that you are wearing a nice little blue Pac-Man hat.
It's great.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm a very gracious host.
I can tell. So yeah, there you go. You know what though? Now I'm thinking about it though. I was joking about it. I don't think that's official merch.
I don't think it is. The Pac-Man hat.
Yeah, I'm looking through all these Pac-Man hats. Like, just make a blue, fucking. Like Klonoa fans will eat it up, and then Pac-Man fans. Like just whatever.
Waka waka.
Yep.
Yeah.
When am I gonna get the deep lore behind that hat? Oh my God,
Yeah?
Wayne!
Yes?
I figured it all out.
What'd you figure out?
This is just Pac-Man streams.
You think they're Pac-Man streams?
Yeah.
Is that why he has the... Oh.
He trips out on those pellets, and then he thinks he's a flying cat rabbit.
What's this, written by Dorkly?
Sure. Yeah. I'm that age. That's my level of humor. That's the funniest I can get. That's my limit. I'm sorry.
That's how Klonoa 3 ends. It's just Pac-Man wakes up. Not just any Pac-Man. Pac-Man 2, like on the Super Nintendo. It just
Voiced by
wakes up.
Sonic for hire.
Oh. 5 people in the audience are gonna get that.
Yeah, we're old.
Yep. God damn. I think that was
There we
my
go.
introduction to Earthworm Jim back in the day. Well, anyway, I apologize for how incredibly disjointed this discussion has been. I think I had to make the same apology last week. I'll get this down one day. Maybe.
Fine. They're fine.
Yeah. Regardless, Nick, thank you for joining me today. Where can everybody find you, and what are you working on?
Well, I did kind of do my, this episode. Just to reiterate, by the hour and a half, the Redemption of Shadow the Hedgehog video will be out.
1 second, buddy. 1 second. Gonna need you to take from the top. You transformered. That you phased out
Sure.
most of that.
Sure, no worries. Like I said in the middle of this insane ramble, I run a channel called GameApologist, largely focused on Sonic the Hedgehog, and I just released for patrons and will be public by the time you hear this, the Redemption of Shadow the Hedgehog. Just talks about Shadow Generations in general. And outside of that, join me and Wayne January at MagFest, because we both have our own panels there.
Yeah. This probably would have been a great place to plug that, but I guess we already did that earlier.
What about you, Wayne? Where can they find you?
You can find me in my room. I have not left here, except to go to work. But Digimon World 3 is... Digimon World 2003 is coming. I will make the distinction because the only reason that this game and recording it has been as aggravating as it has been is because you people recommended the European version with the post-game. So, yeah. Working...
Oh, I'm going to need you to explain that in a video. I didn't know that's the difference.
It makes all the difference to me.
Oh, boy.
I had no idea. So that's on its way. That's gonna be a fun video to script. Looking forward to getting to work on that that part now that I'm done playing the damn thing. So we'll be working on that. Next month, I'm gonna have try to have a much better structure and a much better plan going into the podcast, but you know, I didn't want to, my second month going into this, just not have something available, and Nick is probably one of the easiest friends in the content space to actually talk to on a whim anyway, so...
I am a slut.
Well... All right. Well, all right, everybody. Thanks again for watching. Oh, actually, sorry. We're skipping a very, very important element. Nick, what's your favorite, like, doesn't have to, it's not an alcohol thing. What's your favorite, like, full-time drink?
I think just a simple Mexican hot chocolate.
That will do. You did apple cider last week, or last month, so, yeah, Mexican hot chocolate. I was actually gonna say something kind of hot chocolate related, but, I'm not.
Get proper hot chocolate. None of this water and cocoa powder garbage.
Dude, you can't use water in hot chocolate. That's terrible. Like,
It's offensive.
Yeah.
It's offensive.
You can't do that. That's bad.
And if you use my offer code on, I forgot where I got it. One of my sponsors, the one that did one of those boxes ones, they sent me Mexican hot chocolate, and I gotta admit, it was really damn good. It was really good.
Mexican hot chocolate is good.
Yeah.
It's real good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on the spot because I was going to recommend, like, hot chocolate. Cause that's
Then
like,
just say hot chocolate to your boring white boy version.
yeah, hot chocolate. I can't go wrong with that. It's getting chilly out. You know what? Nice cup of coffee. Get yourself a pumpkin spice latte. Get it hot, though. Cold is for the summertime.
You basic. I will celebrate your pumpkins. Who cares?
All right. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and we will see you next mission.
Bye.